This week's talk is called Your Alignment with the Divine. So I'm here to talk to you about this, but first I want to poo-poo a few myths. The first and most prominent myth is that you're in alignment with the divine when you feel at peace, in the flow, and you're experiencing some grace and ease. That is not a signpost that you are definitely in alignment with the divine. And let me give you a little story to demonstrate. There's this guy on the ground at night under a lamppost that's lit, very well lit, looking for his keys. Another guy comes along and says, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm looking for my keys." And the other guy says, "Well, where did you lose them?" And he goes, "Across the street." And the guy asks him, "Well, why aren't you across the street looking for your keys?" And the man answers, "Because there's no light over there." And so, isn't that what we do sometimes? We follow our sense of peace, and that doesn't automatically mean that we're in a sense of our dream. We're on track with our dreams. Sometimes a sense of peace is simply a relief. Sometimes the emotional pressure gets so great that we need a release valve to let ourselves off the hook a little bit. And I'm not saying that that's out of alignment. I'm just saying that that sense of peace isn't automatically a sense of being in alignment. That we can have that sense of peace for a myriad of reasons. A sense of ease and grace. It was easy and grace for him to search for those keys under the light. Don't we sometimes move towards the light and it isn't towards what it is we want to actually is built into our dreams at all? That thing that actually brings out our passion, but it feels so good that we just want to rest there. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it doesn't automatically mean that means you're on track. So my dream has always been to be a messenger of love and healing. And yet when I got divorced, I went into the woods. I became a hermit to take care of myself, to heal. And when the time was right, I moved back into the world. And sometimes when things are at their hardest, I lament those days of ease and grace and peace that I felt when I was in the woods. But I know that I'm on track now. So even when it's hard, that if you're living your dream, however it's doing, that's where the alignment is. Now, those dreams that have reoccurred since childhood never fully went away, maybe hung back and were repressed for a while, but ultimately bust through our consciousness and make their presence known. Those dreams that are so unrealistic, so unattainable, so ridiculous for a person of your age or your height or your education or any other reason that would make you think that you can't have what is in the deepest of your heart. Those dreams are the grace of God. Dr. Holmes tells us when we fail to realize that principle is not bound by precedent, when we limit ourselves to that which has already been accomplished, and a few miracles result, when we stand in the faith that this moment is a creative moment filled with every possibility that ever was and ever will be, our lives open in ways we never imagined, and miracles become an everyday occurrence. No matter what the outside appearance, we must cling to the knowledge that God is good and God is all. When we cling steadfastly to that which is, that which is true, what others call miracle is the logical result of prayer. Which leads to the second myth I want to poo-poo. If you feel completely blocked and stalled, making what looks like no progress at all, that must mean you're out of alignment with the divine. No, that just means you have more to learn. It means you have more to move forward. You are never out of alignment with the divine when you are following your dreams. And, and it can sometimes be so hard. Your dreams are your birthright, especially the ones that nag at you. Maybe fade away for a little while, but always return. There's nothing realistic or commonsensical about the divine. There's a story about a little boy who was born with half his face paralyzed. And when he was in school, he was bullied a lot. And so as he grew older, he finally decided he better start working out to protect himself. And so by the time he was in high school, he developed a really buff body and started getting accolades for how his body looked. And it gave him some confidence. So he decided to become an actor. He decided he could actually act. And people said, you can't do that. Half your mouth is paralyzed. You can hardly talk. And he was like, no, I'm going to be an actor. And so he wrote a script. And he started taking that script around to different people. And for years, he had hundreds and hundreds of rejections. Until finally a production company said, we love this script, but you can't star in it. Your face is half paralyzed. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm only selling this script with the, caveat that I star in it. And they said, look, we'll give you $100,000 for the script. And he said, no. They said $200,000 and he said, no. They said $400,000 and he said, no. Now this was a man who had a wife and kids, who had been homeless. And yet he just stood his ground. And ultimately they paid him $25,000 and said, okay, that's for the script and you starring in it. Now, probably by now you realize that I'm talking about Sylvester Stallone, and the movie was Rocky. He did not give up his dream, his divine knowing, divine alignment, because it was hard, because he was homeless, because he struggled for years and years. He knew what was his to do. Dr. Holmes tells us the student should take time every day to see his life as he wishes it to be, to make a mental picture of his ideal. He should pass this picture over to the law and go about his business with a calm assurance that on the inner side of life, something is taking place. The calm assurance that on the inner side of life, something is taking place. Now, what about Nelson Mandela? He was in prison for 30 years, tortured, treated badly, and told time and time again that all he had to do was give up his dream of ending apartheid and they'd let him go. And he said, no, this is my dream. This is what I stand for. And by holding fast to what was true for himself, he was able to then move forward. And certainly did, and not only end apartheid, but become the president, the first Black president of a nation that never let Blacks do anything of worth. And so when we hold to our dreams in the midst, anything is possible. This is the beauty of what we teach here in Science of Mind. So being in alignment with the divine is not based on whether things are going well or whether things are going badly. That is not what they're based on. So this leads to my third myth that I want to poo-poo, that it's even possible to be out of alignment with the divine. It isn't possible. Back to Dr. Holmes. Divine kinship is not a projection of that which is unlike our nature. It is not a projection of the divine into the human. God cannot project itself outside itself. God can only express itself within itself. There is and can be no such thing as a distinct or separate individual that would be separate from the universe. So it all comes down to knowing that we are always and forever and eternally aligned with the divine, no matter what the circumstances. if we are following our dreams, if we're not. Though I must say, given the dramas that unfold in life, no matter whether we're following our dreams or not, I highly recommend going after your dreams, because that is where the passion is. That is where the fire is. The key is the recognition that alignment is there no matter what is going on. And so how do we find this recognition when we're not feeling it? How do we feel that alignment when we're not feeling it? Practice. Spiritual practice through meditation, prayer, or whatever spiritual practice rocks your boat. Practice, practice, practice. You are divine. You are a powerful, creative, spiritual being. You are a divine being. So how can you be out of alignment with yourself? You are a divine being. You cannot be out of alignment. Do not be burdened as to whether you are in alignment with the divine. You are. Do not be concerned around the practicality of your dreams. They are divinely gifted to you. When you feel out of alignment, practice. When you feel in alignment, practice. When your life is filled with drama, practice. When your life is filled with grace and ease, practice. Go about your practice with the calm assurance that life is on your side. Thank you.
Are the
I love
face
you.
of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.